We all knew that starting in December, college football was going to be absolutely insane. With all that was going on, from transfers to early signing period to playoffs, it was nearly impossible for your average fan to keep up with it all. Next thing you know, it's February and you're like, okay, so what the hell all happened? How different, if at all, does college football look right now? To better understand how the craziest offseason in college football went, I reached out to the one person who actually does keep track of all of it. Meeting me at one of my favorite Louisville sports bars was real-life college football encyclopedia and KSR Plus writer Adam Luckett. So first of all, was the first transfer portal with NIL and everything, was it mass chaos?
I think you could definitely categorize it as chaotic. I mean, you just got to think what's going on. Championship weekend, first week in December. Portal opens right after that. You got bowl prep, National Signing Day, and then you got to also host transfers. You got to react quick to what players leave your program, right? So there's all these stuff right there. I wouldn't say one in particular is just total chaos, but all of them together is absolutely mass chaos. And you have this portal window, it's the first one ever. We've got 6-7 weeks, I believe it was, and you just throw it into what everything else going on, and it's made this thing very chaotic, especially with this extended playoff starting here soon, the 12th team. You cannot have this going on while you're having a big tournament. They all tie together, and that's why there's chaos.
You know, Stoops had said that this is not sustainable.
It's not. It's just it's chaotic. And then you throw NIL and all that stuff, because that's an added variable, right? If you want to get a quarterback, he's going to want to hear from what the NIL stuff can be. That's all right. Well, we got to call our collective down the street. I don't think that's sustainable, but I think NIL is a huge factor in that. That's something we still haven't. The market hasn't been settled yet.
Yeah.
We got Jay Rashada, reportedly making $19 million. That's not, we all know that's not the market. So there's,
Are teams overbidding for players?
I think for sure that's happening right now. We're just really going to have to play this out and see how the dust all settles. I don't think anybody really knows, but there's definitely schools that are paying more than others. I think that's pretty obvious, and there's schools that have been able to establish that collective faster, and I think you've seen some recruiting results tie into that.
So you wrote here that roster flips can occur quickly in college football.
I think you look at Brian Kelly, LSU, you look at Lincoln Riley, USC are the two that really jump off the page from last year. USC gets a bunch of skill talent, Caleb Williams, get a Heisman Trophy winner. The long builds that Stoops has, there's not going to be patience for those anymore, I think, if the portal era stays, because you can go out and get players. There's no excuse for you to not. If you have obvious holes in your roster, you should be able to fill them. Colorado's a big one with Deion Sanders this year, 20-some odd transfers. Arizona State, if you add their high school signees and their transfers, they spent 55, 56, 57% on their scholarship capital in one offseason.
Adam says teams like Kentucky have done a great job of just plugging holes where they see them on their roster.
And I think for a program like a Kentucky, it just raises your floor. The national champions are always going to be programs that recruit at top 5 level, high school recruiting. In those programs like the Georgias, the Alabamas, they're going in the portal for 1 or 2 players. They need a starter at strong safety. Well, let's go find a starter at strong safety. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, Dabo refuses to use it, but those programs.
He just refuses to.
Yeah.
Does Dabo Swinney does not use the transfer?
He took one transfer last year, Hunter Johnson, but that was just because he was a Clemson signee out of high school. Where Kentucky has holes on the roster. They can plug those holes, maybe not with star players, but better than average, and then it just raises your floor.
That was Lane Kiffin who said the programs with the most money are going to get the best players. Did you find that to be true?
That's always been the case. I mean, it's always been the case. That's why the Saban stuff with Jimbo was very, very rich. Dude, you had an higher average star rating than A&M did in that last class.
Because he actually does keep track of every transfer in college football, he was able to give us the top 4 transfers of this portal season.
Dominic Lovett, Georgia receiver. He was awesome last year at Missouri. Slot receiver, true vertical weapon in the pass game. Thing with Georgia last year, they didn't have vertical. That was a big issue for their offense. You add him with Ladd McConkey, Brock Bowers, as kind of a third option who was very, very good. Brennan Armstrong is staying in the ACC. He's going from Virginia to NC State. Last year was awful for Brennan Armstrong. The numbers were terrible, but 2 years ago, he's one of the most productive quarterbacks in college football, threw for over 5,000 yards. Well, he's reuniting with his offensive coordinator, Robert Anae, at NC State. He's stepping in for Devin Leary there. Ollie Jennings going from Old Dominion to Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech doesn't have any receivers. Jennings had over 2,000 yards last 2 seasons. And the last one, Deuce Chestnut, another ACC player. He's gone from Syracuse to LSU. He was a corner out, very good at Syracuse, true freshman starter. I wouldn't be surprised to see him start for LSU and be one of their better defensive players.
What grade would you give Kentucky?
Yeah,
in the portal?
like there's a 2-week window in May of more transfer portal additions. You're going to have more attrition there. There's going to be a big player that enters that portal in May. For right now, I think it's a solid B. Leary puts a high floor on this class.
You can read Adam's full article on this great website called KentuckySportsRadio.com. For Adam Luckett, I'm Stephen Peak. We'll see you next time.